Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I know it hasn't been long, but I hope you have had a magnificent day. Today, we have an interesting Game Week 16 selection. Yes, a team selection that is actually interesting because, unlike what I was thinking 24 hours ago, I am not going to roll and it's not going to be boring. In actual fact, I'm going to be doing two things which I just wasn't expecting to do. However, when opportunities present themselves, you take it. As you can see, my Game Week 5 score has been slightly adjusted to 360 points. And you know what? That, considering no chip has been used, and the fact that I won't be using a wildcard in Game Week 6, and the fact that the team is strong, I think is a very strong start. I'm very, very happy with it. It's a fantastic platform on which to build. There isn't much that needs to be said before we get into the video, apart from the fact that we are fast approaching 3,000 subscribers. And if you could help push us there, I would be greatly appreciative. Even more so if you could like the video. But now, let's actually hop into it. Unlike Game Week 4, this is not going to be the most exciting section of the team. However, I am hoping that Sels Supremacy reigns supreme again. Now, Fulham at home is an interesting fixture. I think they've looked really, really good going forward, Fulham at home, but away where I think they have to transition a little bit more and they don't have as much of the ball and they can't play through the lines and exploit poor midfield discipline and a poor midfield structure in general. For example, Newcastle's pretty poor. Then I think that they are going to struggle a little bit more and their goal threat isn't as close to what it is at home. So we saw that against Ipswich on a slightly smaller pitch and game where they weren't able to fashion too many traditional type of chances through like pass, whereas against Newcastle they were certainly able to do that. And I'm expecting a similar thing away at Forest. The only thing is Morgan Gibbs-White not being there's a huge loss because they won't be well accustomed to playing without him, and he is such a workhorse in the middle of that park. I am hoping that Nuno compensates with a even more defensive structure and the likes of Yates and Rodriguez all play in the middle, and they make it very, very difficult for Fulham. So, I'm optimistic about getting a clean sheet. I can see this going pretty much anyway, but he will be staying and he won't be going anywhere. Now to the defense. I gave a nice little 1-minute speech, maybe 2 minutes on Gabriel in the Game Week preview or the Everything You Need to Know video. Look, I mean, the biggest box threat in the league at home to a side that aren't particularly good at defending set pieces, and he plays for the best defense in the league, and they're the best set piece taking team in the league. It's just the money game, right? This really is the money game, and I would very much like a haul, Gabriel. I would very much like a haul, especially because all of the people who won't wildcard probably won't have him, or at least a large majority of them. I think I probably expect him to be 60% EO amongst gauge managers come the start of Game Week 6, maybe a little bit lower actually because he sent last week. Benched him, but nonetheless. So if we can get a haul there, very nice spot to exploit. I mean, Conte has got a lovely fixture, Ipswich away, and following his goal, which I predicted to an extent, I'm very happy to play him there. And you know what? If he gets another one, I wouldn't be a tad surprised. They say that when it rains, it pours, and wishes to pour goals into his game and get me points, by all means do it, especially at that price and that ownership. Robinson obviously plays Sels, and that is not ideal, but who knows? Maybe it's for the best. Maybe I get him 0-0 out of it. I'm hoping at least one gets a clean sheet and maybe a bonus point or two on top of it. And then, to be honest, from two 4.5s, a return of 9 points at 4.5 each, I think that's pretty solid. So, yeah, I'm hoping that just one of them gets a clean sheet. At least Robinson has attacking threat regardless, so maybe he can even get a haul if Forest are to concede. I am expecting a relatively low scoring game, however. Thus, I think getting one is actually quite realistic. Ideally, I wouldn't be playing him in this fixture. I'd have the funds to move all up, but I have nothing in the bank, so I can't. And Hall has been a really shocking transfer. Apart from Game Week 1 where he got me 5 points, so I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I think Barker was actually meant to play when I was making the team at the start of the year, but obviously he plays in another country now, so that won't be happening. Barker's obviously just never going to get used. Hall is on the chopping block soon, as you will see in the transfer plan section. Actually, as soon as next week. There was nothing really that interesting so far, but now we get it a little bit more interesting. Why? Well, we'll come on to it. Obviously, we've got Bukayo Saka at home. He started midweek against Bolton. Actually, started tonight against Bolton, putting this on Wednesday. And yeah, honestly, I didn't watch the game. I haven't watched a single minute. I watched a few of the goals, but that's the part. I don't really care how he played either. He got 70, so he wasn't playing the full 90. He'll be well rested. He'll have minutes in the legs, and he is just a fantastic player who I imagine will get so much of the ball on that right side. So much of the ball on that right side without Odegaard interrupting actions within that space. He'll have complete dominion over it. And as a result, I am expecting at least 2 returns. I will not be happy with just one. I mean, I'll take it and I'll be grateful. But realistically, get me to Bukayo at least. At least. By the way, I think Arsenal are going to thump one of Leicester or Southampton. I don't know which, but I can just see them absolutely slapping them for 5 or 6. And that is why I really like having Gabriel, Havertz, and Saka, because it's combinations of points. When Gabriel is going to score a goal, at least 50, you just assume that spread 50% on one side, 50% on the other, 50% chance that I get a Saka assist. Also, Havertz will be in the box. Who knows? Flick on when Saka's delivering into the box. It doesn't just have to go to Gabriel. It can go to Havertz as well. So my Arsenal trio are really nicely set to stack each other's points up. That's one reason I actually picked them pre-season. I knew of that set piece threat. So if you are looking at a wild card, again, I really would encourage you to go with Havertz over Raya, in my personal opinion. Rodgers, similar to Konsa, right? Brilliant fixture. 10-pointer in the last game week. Absolutely golden 10-pointer, especially given the fact that it looked pretty dark until late on, until he first assist. So that is fantastic. And he will be going absolutely nowhere. I'll probably play him in pretty much every game at 5-1. I am more than happy to have Winks at 4-5 and spend the money elsewhere, right? Like, I've got a draft with Salah, with Saka, with Gabriel, with Havertz, with Haaland, and that is a lot of firepower to have. Now, you can argue the rest of the team, keeper side. Yeah, sure, but there's still money in the bank. I've still got 1.3 in the bank. So if you assume a Hall becomes a Porro, then all of a sudden, this team looks pretty strong. Now, who do we talk about first? Who do we give the spotlight to first? We'll give it to Salah, and then we'll come back to him. I really, really like his prospects in the next 2/3. Wolves away. I mean, without Mosquera, they conceded a hat-trick to Madueke down the same side. Liverpool look like they're creating so many chances at the moment. Nailed for 90, especially considering bench tonight on penalties. And as a differential, given so many engaged managers have told him, Mamma mia, what a prospect. What a prospect. And I'm very, very, very much looking forward to owning him for that fixture at 5:30, which is televised. But the surprise you may see is that Eze has left and the menu has. This wasn't my intention. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the transfer plans, and then we'll do it again later as well. The plan was to roll this week and then sell Eze and Hall for a cheap midfielder and someone else to upgrade Hall. In the first instance, when I formulated this plan, it was Eze to McNeil and Hall to Guardiola. That's still a pretty good plan. However, by going Guardiola, I miss out on a little bit of upside, I feel like, in 6-7. And I don't necessarily have to go Guardiola with the way that my team's structured. When I would want Rico Lewis to play, those are the fixtures I actually think he's going to play. So I think I could actually get some decent expectations when I need it from him. And, if I don't go for a City defender, well, now they don't have Rodri, and I didn't have that piece before. So I can go somewhere else. Upside to Semenyo this week, I think Southampton looking to play out the back like they have done in the games with that Bournemouth high press on that side pitch. Again, I think it really does make a big difference. Big deal. Also, one thing I've noticed with Bournemouth is he seems a bit like a magnet to the ball, to the really good positions. Right? He's always on the end of it. Torres crossed it, I think, twice this season and has resulted in a goal from Semenyo box. He had a disallowed goal against Liverpool. He's had a high volume in shots. He just seems to be in the right place at the right time. And that's really important, right? Not just in life, and not just in FPL, but in life and business, etc. And if he's got that going for him, I'm a bit of a sucker for these type of things. I think that they're really important when assessing assets, the intangibles to an extent. And therefore, with Leicester away afterwards, I'm like, I was going to go to a cheap mid next weekend. Why don't I just capture his upside and sell Eze 1 week early? The reason I want to sell Eze is because he's got Liverpool, and I need the money to upgrade my defense because I currently have 0.0 in the bank. And then in game week 8, I can just move him on, and we'll talk about that as to who I'm looking at afterwards. Now let's go on to the forwards. I will touch on these three very briefly. Havertz, first of all, I actually think he's going to start at 9. I don't think Jesus is going to start. I think he'll be like Trossard in midfield, and then Ethan. No. I think it'll be Trossard in midfield, Rice, and then Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left, Havertz up top. Ford tonight coming off the bench. You cannot assess his prospects through the lens of Spurs and Man City. It makes much more sense to Wolves and the fixture, the first half against Brighton. Always in the right positions. I've spoken about him so much. I'm not going to do it again. You just have to go and check out pretty much any video on my channel. If you want a deeper analysis on him, you can just go and check the video from yesterday, the Everything You Need to Know video, and that covers it in a lot more depth. But yeah, I'm bullish, and I'm expecting of some points over the next 2. Calvert-Lewin, I mean, I bought him, right? I bought him to own him for a long time. That's the intention. At 5'9", being the talisman in a team that is going to improve, I think, with their defensive recruits. That was another thing that made me sell Eze. Now that I know that Branthwaite's coming back, now that I know it's not just him, but also Mikalenko, Gonagay, I'm like, okay, I expect him to be a bit stronger. There'll probably be a bit more of a buzz around the place. They're at home, etc., etc. I don't want to have Eze and DCL in the same game because it sort of limits my upside minutes. So yeah, that factors into the decision as well. Palace look pretty poor at the moment defensively, and I am hoping Calvert-Lewin can exploit that. Right, like I have him, I'm not telling him. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It doesn't matter if Palace sign out with 11 sheep or 11 gladiators. At the end of the day, I've got him, and he's not going anywhere. So not too much of a point discussing him, unless you're looking to transfer him in. I guess I like him. I think in an ideal world, I'd probably give it one more week to assess him and see what he does. Because I think if he fails in this fixture, then alarm bells start to ring for me. But yeah, I think at 5'9" is a good option. He really, really is a solid option. Lastly, we have Erling Haaland. And in the title, you would have seen something about a differential. And I also said that there were two interesting things to start. And you haven't seen the second one yet. And that is because I have saved the best until last. Yes, the captaincy will be going on Mohamed Salah. I've decided, and I actually thought about it for a while. I really cleared my mind, and I was like, let's think about this properly. Let's run over all the variables, and I'm set. I've decided. When I say I'm set, 99%. We'll go 90. We'll go 90, just so I have some leeway with you guys, just in case I change it. But I don't think I will. I haven't done that once so far, where I said I'm going to do team selection and not done it. So yeah, I think I'll be going Salah captain. Let's talk about it a little. Because this time yesterday, I don't think I was leaning towards it anywhere close to as I am now. I think I was still on Haaland. But I was definitely open to the idea, but now I'm on. Okay. So here are my reasons, or here are my things that I don't really like too much about Haaland. No De Bruyne. And I think he is not much, but he's definitely a worse asset when De Bruyne isn't behind him. And it probably is Foden. Someone who's a little bit more of a ball hog, a little bit more shooting inclined. And there's just times where Foden will have that ball in that little pocket of space, and where De Bruyne would release him, Foden will shoot, Foden will drive, Foden will try and twist and manufacture a little bit of space to get a shot off. Yeah, like especially in a slightly bigger game, where I guess you can argue the chances will be somewhat more limited. I think the usual way Newcastle play is actually quite exploitable for Haaland, but nonetheless, I imagine they'll change, which is the reason. Yeah, with Foden behind him as opposed to De Bruyne, even it is not as good as De Bruyne. Now, I'd rather it would be Foden, given I'm captaining Salah, than anyone else. If it's Gundo and, let's say, Bernardo Silva similar to Arsenal, so be it. The other thing is no Rodri. I think that definitely weakens the speed of ball circulation. No, I low circulation and makes it worse. And I also think they'll be more susceptible to transitions. And I think when you don't have the ball and you have to account for more transitions, you can't be as free and fluid in attack. You can't be as comfortable. Can't take as many risks. And for all those reasons, I think they'll play a slightly cagey game. I think, especially given it's the first game that they won't have Rodri or De Bruyne off, it'll be a lot more pass, keep. Try and, at least for the first 20, quieten down that crowd. Because if that Newcastle crowd gets bouncing, a 12:30 kickoff, I think City might find themselves just in a little bit of trouble. That is another thing. It's a 12:30 kickoff. People say that, like, it's not. I'm not saying that for superstition. I don't care about that. But players just generally don't like playing at that time. And therefore, you can see the game become a little bit more sluggish. And as a result, okay, fine, that's another thing. Favor of Salah captain. Look, Newcastle play the way they did against Fulham, and they are that susceptible transition. And they just have that much. Honest, against Fulham, they weren't even that bad in transition. They just left so much space in the middle. Usually, though, Haaland can definitely get between the centre backs and penetrate the space that they offer. But my hope is that he sees what happens against Fulham, tighten the block a little bit in that. Let's make sure there's not too much space between them and between the midfielders in general. Let's also look at the way that Arsenal played and how they frustrated City. And without Rodri and without De Bruyne, without the ball striking from distance, Foden exempt, and without the pass at a quicker rate, well, okay, this is quite a good approach against City. Always has been. Understand why more people don't take it. I know that they want to try and get the 3. I actually think it's the best route because you need a little bit of luck to beat him. So with that in mind, I am just hoping that Eddie Howe puts out a side. I hope he goes Gordon on the left, Jacob Murphy on the right, 3 big engines in the midfield, and makes it very, very difficult for them. And he doesn't haul. If he only gets 1 goal, really cool. The way I see this, the way I planned out in my head is Salah captain versus Haaland and then Mbeumo. A lot of people are going to have Mbeumo on wildcard 6. I won't, right? He'll be essentially the midfield replacement here. So if Haaland, I'll give him 8. I'll give him a goal and 2 bonus. I think I'm being very fair. That's what models are predicting, even a little bit less. Then I'll give him Mbeumo like a 6-pointer. It basically requires Salah to get 1 return to match it, a goal to match. And if he got a goal, he'll probably get a bonus and do a bit better. And then if he hauls, I win by like 10 points. And a lot of people won't even have Salah, right? So that'll be a really nice spot to expect. So there's definitely footballing reasons behind it, but there's also strategic reasons why I'm choosing to exploit this. But people who play poker will know what I mean just a little bit more. Sometimes when you have these type of opportunities, on this type of bluff, you gotta go for it. Suited connectors where you block certain sets, etc., etc. And in terms of Salah, from footballing reasons, I mean, look, Wolves' game model is certainly one that is susceptible to being exploited by a side like Liverpool. Liverpool accumulating a lot of chances at the moment, a lot. And they've lost Mascara as well. Salah looks sharp, Liverpool looks sharp. And I'm just taking the upside here. I don't think there's too much downside. What's the worst? I don't think Haaland scores a hat-trick. All right, fine, I'll give him a brace. Even so, I'm down 13 points on my without Salah having been played. I think he can get a haul at Wolves. I think he can score a brace at Wolves. So honestly, I'm all good with it. And yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to it. I'm not worried, to be honest. I don't think there's enough downside for me to be worried about. But there's a lot of upside. And if I could just get a 5-pointer out of Haaland, oh, we're in business. But I do think Salah could put up a really big haul. That is my big differential for the week. I imagine it'll come in at like, amongst really engaged managers, like 50% top Salah, so at least I get 150 of him. As promised, I will revisit my transfer plan section very briefly, give you guys an idea of what I have in mind. Eze to Semenyo leaves me with 1.3 million cash in the bank, and you can do a lot with that. A Ferrari, a Porsche, but instead, I am going to sell Lewis Hall because he's not been good to me after game week 1, and I will buy a defender. Now, the reason I can't really extend my transfer plan, I don't know what type of defender I'm going to go for. Am I going to go for a 5-5 in Porro, or am I going to go for a 4-5 in Pinnock or Mikolenko or another Forest asset, etc., or a Man United asset, or Matraoui, etc., right? If I do that, then I have an extra mil, and then I can go to like Kudus maybe an 8. I can go to maybe a Nacho if he gets nailed, because those of you who watched yesterday at the end, I spoke about how I quite like him. I can go to maybe a Morgan Gibbs White for the fixtures. I mean, not great given he's not on penalties, but like potentially get a little bit lucky. I could do that. Alternatively, I could go Semenyo. Oh, and then in game week 8, I'm selling Semenyo, right? Because it's Leicester, Southampton, take the upside, wonderful, and then move him on to, that was the move basically. Lewis Hall to a defender in 7, and then use the rest of the cash to change Semenyo. I could go Semenyo to McNeil in 8 because they have really nice fixtures from 8. I believe it starts with Ipswich away. They also have Southampton away in 10. Double him and DCL and really look to exploit the upside there. That would actually give me enough to go to Hall to Guardiola, but given the timings of the game weeks, I'm not sure I'll be able to roll in 7. So that's where my thoughts are out. But the next 2 transfers will be used on Semenyo again and also Lewis Hall. I can't imagine. I mean, obviously, if other things pop up, then so be it, right? There's a break between 7 and 8 for the international games. But apart from that, I really can't imagine selling any of these other players. I mean, Robinson's got a nice run from, I think, 9 or 10. Decent run, at least. So there's no real reason to sell him when I've got value in there. He's great value for his price, and he's got attacking upside. Gabriel's Gabriel. And Concert plays for a good team, and the fixtures are pretty good for as long as they need to be. And looking to wildcard in 12, which is miles away, right? So yeah, that is the transfer plans. That is the team. Salah captain. Really looking forward to having a spin with that and seeing where we land. And that's about it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow. That's about it for team selection. I'll see you tomorrow for the Solving Your Problems edition. Have a wonderful day. And again, please do subscribe. We're so close to 3,000. It'd be great to get there as soon as. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.